let me know. Meeting's called to order. Please rise for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All righty. All right, so we're here for the hearing and adoption of the 2021 budget. I need a motion, please. Mr. Kniga. I need a second. Mr. Johnson. Pam, would you like to take over there, Carl?
This is actually just the hearing, so the adoption will be at our October board meeting. So really the hearing is for anyone in the public. So I know we've got someone that, but it's for anyone in the public that does want to make any comments regarding the 2021 proposed budget. We shared that at the September board meeting, and anyone had the ability to comment on the 2021 there. We kind of went through it, reviewed it. In your packets, I did share again. You have budget forms 1, budget form 2. You also have within there, the capital project plans. You have the bus replacement plans in there, and then the comparison of what the actuals were from 2020 budget and the proposed 2021 budget and what we anticipate from that. So you see the comparisons. But tonight is to have the hearing to allow anyone in the public to make comments, but you guys are welcome to make comments, or if you have more questions for Pam or I, we can take those as well.
Mr. Kniga, go ahead.
Still right. It's on the form too. There's several line items with excise tax.
Yes.
I first seen, is that
We-
something new?
No, we get that tax every year. There's property tax, there's,
So it's income.
commercial
It's
vehicle,
income.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, Form 2 is all revenue,
Okay, that's what I.
anticipated revenue, other than property tax.
Go back on one, yes. So-
No, that's just a revenue stream.
Thank you.
All right, anybody else have any questions or anything on this? All right.
So there's no need for a vote. It's really a hearing to be able to allow anyone to make any comments on the 2021 budget is really what this time is for. So
So we really didn't need motion then either.
no, you didn't. But I wasn't going to stop you. I wanted you to go ahead and finish, and then
Who brings these up? It says hearing and adoption. I just didn't know what it said. Okay. All right, we're good. All right, next, discussion of the crossing at Tanner's Creek. Mr. Gailey, I'll let you start out.
this is just, I brought it back up. It's business that we had at our last board meeting in September. So I was asked to make time for it on this agenda. I know at that time we had representatives here from Greendale Redevelopment, which we also have again this evening. We also had representatives of the developers here at that meeting. I believe the developers, so I don't want to shortchange them. I believe there was a meeting at Greendale tonight, so they needed to decide where they needed to be. So I think they are attending that meeting because we felt like this meeting was more, if you had questions, it's more in contact with Greendale Redevelopment than it was with the developers. So it's really kind of an opportunity for board members. If you have questions or comments for Greendale Redevelopment, I do want to note for our records that we do have Greendale Redevelopment Director Al Abbott here, as well as Greendale Redevelopment Commission President Mike McLaughlin here as well, representing them. So just wanted to give an opportunity. I don't know if either one of you guys want comments, or if there's board members. I know there's been a number of questions that have been posed over the past few months to Greendale Redevelopment Commission, and those have been provided. Those were provided before our last September board meeting. I emailed those out. Those were in your packet. They're in your packet again for tonight. But I didn't know if there was any other clarification. The only kind of points that I had, but obviously it's a board decision, was number one, what property is going to be in that hotel? Was there going to be anything besides the developer's property, just that piece that we're looking at developing? So that means, I know there's been a few developers that have talked about this, but I believe the answer that we received, but if they want to kind of put it on record, they're welcome to come forward and put it on record that it's only going to be the developer. So my other question can the HOTIP be expanded? Can a HOTIP be expanded to your knowledge? And the reason I'm asking that question, I know there's surrounding properties, because in the original plan, way back when it first kind of came to fruition, it was a development, and then there was even the possibility of a bridge going over Tanner's Creek, more development on the other side over there. So my question is, down the road, can that be re-tipped, expanded onto this tip like other tips? I guess that's a question I think the board's going to want to know is, can that tip kind of be expanded all throughout that valley? If you would, please, yes. Yes.
Hi, everybody.
And you're welcome to take, they're probably not going to be able to hear if you want.
Yeah, I don't talk about anything. Basically, the way the statute is written originally is that there's a 1% rule. So in any community where you want to create a housing tip, if your community hasn't increased their housing stock by more than 1% over the prior 3 years, you were allowed to establish a housing tip. Freedom met that. They did not have a 1% growth over the prior 3 years. So under the statute, once you increase your housing stock by more than 1%, you're supposedly not allowed to expand your tip any further.
But if you don't have growth, say, for example, and all of a sudden it becomes stagnant again, and you don't have growth for 3 years, can you turn around?
I don't know that. I don't have an answer to that question. I don't know that. But that's the way the statute's written now. And the way I understood it is that once you've reached that 1% threshold, you're pretty much done. You can't expand your tip anymore. Which goes to another part of your question. The developer actually intended to tip the property they own, not just the phase 1, but also the phase 2 that you were talking about across the creek. Now, what that would entail to develop is a lot different than ever getting it developed. But in order to even consider it, they would have to include it, they feel by the statute, they have to include it in this original tip. So, for instance, it would require a multi-million-dollar bridge to get across the creek. And would it be feasible for them to even do that without help from the county, the city, maybe even the state? I don't know. In order to make it even profitable for any developer, it would be a large investment for the number of homes that you could get in that area. But they, just in case they find a way to do it, they were going to include the property they own only in the tip.
Do you know how many acres they own on the other side?
I think total acreage owned is about 85, but developable is much smaller than that. With the floodplain, and I know that of the 30 plus 35 acres on the original phase, I think about 15 of that can be developed.
So 35 on this side is what you're saying?
Yes.
So there's another, so it's
And then
only
there's
50 on the other
There's a piece
side.
right next to the end of the county that's not in Greendale. That's part of their property. So all in all, I think they, trying to remember how many total houses there were when they were going to try to do it all. It seemed to me like it was like 130 houses or something like that. Was what they thought they could fit on that entire area that they own. It was about 130 homes. It looks like they're going to try to get somewhere in the 80 to 90 range based on the latest numbers I've seen in this first phase. So what I was getting at is for the number of homes they could add to it, would it even be feasible to build a bridge across the creek?
So there's a number of
It's not
other
gonna be my call.
landowners that are on the other side. Well, I don't say a number of landowners, one landowner that's on the other side that I can see. That's why we're trying to understand
Sure.
if this is going to expand.
But back to that, back to the 1% rule, I can get more clarification on that as far as how far out that goes. But when you're putting, we figured Greendale has around 1,800 homes.
So that'd be the baseline used.
Yeah, that's the baseline we used, and this first estimate was about 1,800 homes. which is about the same as Hidden Valley, right around the same. Based on that, we weren't even close to the 1%, but you add 80 to 90 new homes, that 1% goes away really quickly. And then what you have to do is, I don't know, I don't know, I can't go any further than what the current statute is.
Right. Okay.
Now I do have one on that. So just to make sure I'm clear, I think what is it, it's at 1.7 mil, something like that. Is that
The
correct?
request,
Yes.
that they have, their preliminary request is 1.7. Now,
Okay.
they've never made a request yet,
Okay.
because they've said if they can't get through these processes there,
Right.
there's no reason to ask.
But let's say it is.
But that's the
1.7.
number we're basing all of the projections on that we've gotten from them.
So if it's 1.7, if they do develop the backside, okay, they can't come to Greendale and say, we need another $1 million TIF for the backside, correct?
If it's already included in the
Right.
TIF, they could ask for more help. Yes, they could. Ask
The
for more help.
land's already, that's what he's saying, is the land would already be part of this TIF that they're creating.
Well, I think where Kevin's going with this is, where does it stop? If they ask for 1.7 million now, and then they, right, build a bridge across this creek,
Yeah.
then you come back and ask for another 1.7 million.
Well, from Greendale, it would probably not be that big, because I don't think they could put as many more new houses. Now, if it's not in Greendale, we couldn't help them in.
So
And that's the only piece I think that's in Greendale that's connected,
Right.
that's across the creek that, I don't know that.
Once it's tipped, it's tipped.
well, that doesn't mean they can't come back and ask for money.
True, but that's.
They can come back and ask for them, but remember that the term that is being proposed is 20 years. So if they come back in 10 years, you know, for $1 million, we'd have to see that payback in 10 years.
You still have to see the
How
numbers.
feasible is
Okay.
that?
That's,
So you
that's,
couldn't extend
You
it
still
out,
have to see the
Okay,
numbers.
like
The
go another
numbers don't
15
match.
years on top.
Yeah.
that's what, thank you. I mean, that helps clarify what I want to know.
And this, like almost every TIF we've ever done, we will be called a pure TIF. And there are others that we haven't done this way on manufacturing. But the project itself is going to have to support any help they get from us. The revenue they generate off of their taxpayers is going to have to pay all of that back. It's not going to be taxpayers in Greendale or anything else, because it's a TIF based on what their revenue is going to bring as they sell houses.
Now,
If that makes sense.
on behalf of the school corporation, I want to thank you guys for, what you guys have done for the schools. We do appreciate it very much. I mean,
Most
I know, we came to you guys for a lot of years with our hand out, and, yourself and the board you have, the mayor, you guys have come through and we appreciate it. By no means is this a reflection on, the way we vote either way, is a reflection on what we feel towards Greendale redevelopment. And I hope the same is vice versa.
A good school system is a vital part of economic development.
It
We
is.
recognize that, and we always have. We always do want to do what we can to help.
And we appreciate it. And I've spoken to Mr. McLaughlin about it before, and I think it was one of the questions Carl asked is, and I don't know how to put it, I'm not politically correct, Milan, I should say, but can we have, is there any way, and I know Mike said, he didn't want to tie up the other, present board members' hands, but something in writing, and it protects us too, because whatever decision we make tonight, let's say that the next election, 3 of us are off, but we're tying the hands of the other 4. But let's say that we say, okay, yes, we go for this. Is there anything we can get in writing? And it doesn't even have to be a dollar amount or anything else. That basically will state that Greendale Redevelopment Commission will still give, 2 Lawrenceburg community schools, for future projects, that take that consideration. I don't want to say it's, right, if funding available, no dollar amount, and Dell may be able to help us out with that a little bit better as far as how to write and read it, your attorney, Anthony. But it give us, I think, if I'm speaking for everybody on the board, it give us a little bit a load of comfort that, no, because, heck, you don't know, when you retire, who's gonna come on? They might be, no, we're not giving to the school, or when Mike decides to retire, we're not giving to the school. We need something to just help us out. I know it's in the budget, supposedly for what, the next 10 years or whatever, you guys have a 10-year budget for the schools.
In the projections we ran, trying to see what uses and income of our groups, we put what we projected max we could give to the school corporation based on good projects coming to us, and if we had the time to 15%. So it's not really in the budget, it's in the projection, the budget is more of a state.
Right.
But it's in our projections.
One thing, if I can, not unlike what you were saying about tying future boards' hands and things, is real similar. I mean, I think you brought up Dell and the situation he walked in with some contracts in Lawrenceburg where a prior administration had committed the next administration to contracts. I don't know that we can. All I can tell you is that for all the years I've been in Greendale, I'm not gonna be there that many more, I'll tell you that right now. I've already started counting the days. Not that I don't love it, but it's time. But I don't see there being an issue with us doing the same thing that we do, and that is when we project out. This actually started with Ivy Tech, with their programs, and then we were trying to coordinate those with the foundations programs, and so we have always been aware, and I expect whoever takes my place will know that that's one of their expectations, to be aware of everything that is good for economic development in not just Greendale, in southeastern Indiana. Because I think we try to work really well with all of the other communities and other entities around us, but all we can do is probably just project that's our goal, is to continue to keep the relationship going and grow it any way we can. I don't know, I mean, I'm more than happy to ask Anthony what it is.
And like I said, it doesn't, I mean, I don't know how you guys do, but it doesn't have to be a dollar amount, it's just
So I
something.
think what we're looking for, Kevin, is something specifically the area, the legal domain of what's going to be in the TIF, the term of the TIF, and there won't be re-TIF, because if this goes 20 years, which I'll bring up in a minute, it's either going to be 10, 15, or 20 years. We're tying 2 generations. I won't be around here. I hope I'm alive, but I'm hoping you're sitting here probably. But not that anything's going to happen, but I mean, you're getting ready to leave. Mike, I don't think you're going to be around when this is 20 years. You're going to be doing something else. The whole dynamic's going to change. And we just want to be sure that we're not limiting future boards.
But in the same respect, from our side, putting that expectations of the unknown 20 years, maybe them to a dollar.
I'm not looking for a dollar. I'm just looking.
Yeah, and I don't, but how do you, I mean, I think, I put in here, and obviously Dell's much smaller than mine, but, some kind of memorandum of understanding that, something like that. I do know, I talked to Carl and I talked to Kevin, right now, the board feels that pass-through is not appropriate, but supporting projects, 100%. That's something that we can say to Greendale residents, this is what we support. We have a tangible project that we supported every year. And I'm sure that the school has many, many needs that could easily satisfy that. So I think, I think if there can be somebody that brings a draw up that one behind, I don't want to say behind, but because what I don't know is in 5 years, the economy changes and, the redevelopment board at that point, maybe then you have enough to fund bond. Then, those are my privilege. Opinion would come priority to school. So, so many scenarios can come up.
I think in that vein, I think if there is like an MOU or something that you guys want to have drawn up that would make you comfortable, that would fit, that our attorney could agree to or tweak, you know, I'm sure the board would consider it as long as the attorneys say it's okay.
Right. And that's something that.
We lean pretty heavily on our attorneys and our county advisors, because, most of these, all of these board members are volunteers, and they don't have the time or the wherewithal to know everything there is to know about all the things that are involved in TIF, because it changes not daily, but at least annually. But I think some type of an MOU you can put together that would satisfy what you're looking for, and that we can get somebody to sign up on. I'm happy to take it to them, that's for sure.
Well, and I appreciate, how's the rest of the board feel about that? I mean, it wouldn't have a specific dollar amount, but it would, I want to get your guys' opinion, it's not mine.
Well, that's how I feel in a nutshell. I know we can't specifically ask for the money because we don't have a project to appropriate it to at this point. But an MOU would be great. That way, it would just put it in writing, something that, because like I said, I know the redevelopment, that could change every year. That's an appointment. So
Right.
The board is every 4 years, but we have every 2 years, we have an opportunity for basically a new board. So, some sort of something in writing, and I think something that the attorneys could, maybe work on, maybe Dell or, Anthony could work on, that we could all agree on. And I think that no certain dollar amount or percentage, but just some sort of, piece of paper that everybody can see 5 years from now.
Sure.
I think it's a good idea.
Mark?
So I got a couple things that I'll be glad. One of them is this whole start, Carl, correct me if I'm wrong, was it 9.7 years payback?
It was approximately.
Roughly 10. So,
That's after it starts getting revenue. So it's actually about 13 years. But
13
when the
years.
revenue starts coming in, it's about 9.5 years.
based on the table of London lease, and I believe it was 2021 that starts running.
Right.
So
If they get the number of homes built, that if they can ever get through all the permitting process.
And we're one of three entities, somebody
Right.
else might put squash there too.
You're absolutely
So I
right.
mean, we're just one part of that.
You're absolutely right.
So my question is, why drag this out over 20 years when the anticipated is 13? I mean, we're going substantially, almost
But
double.
I think if you, I think if you look not just at the numbers, but at the response that we got from London Lee about I think the 2 points he made were the volatility of building, the number of homes that they're projecting, and that amount of time based on the economy, not knowing if you're going to get that many homes built that quickly. The other thing is the saleability of a TIF bond. And you have to have like at least a 2 or 2.5 to 1 ratio on revenue compared to expenditures. So to make that bond sellable, they've got to have the ratios, a buyer, a prospective buyer. And right now is a tough market in TIF bonds anyway, or any municipal bonds. I'll let the banker back here tell you more about that, but the volatility in that, in both of those together, there's no guarantees that this thing will get paid off. That's a projection based on how much they want to spend and based on how many homes they can build in the next 5 years.
But with that said, and I've been to all the meetings and all that, I believe there were 3 to 5 developers that were standing behind waiting to build this. And if there's such
That's
critical house shortage in your county, I mean, Mike, I'm opposed to you because why would the GRC want to tie up their money for 20 years? If we can get it back in
Well,
15.
and I want to make sure I remember this. We wouldn't be tying up our money, we're tying up their money.
Well, if we're bonded, the GRC was bonded.
But their tax revenue pays
Their
it back.
tax revenue.
We're not giving them cash.
My point exactly. So if they sell all the houses, and it gets built out in 8 years rather than 13.
Well, it could. I mean, it could.
That's
Right
the
now,
projected, if everything goes perfect.
in the housing study that was done, I believe was 100% valid. We've seen that, we felt it. But also, I lived through 2008, 2007, 2008, 2009. And, I have a worry that if this comes to fruition where they build that many houses in 5 years. That would be the most this county has seen. Yeah. So while I think there's a need for it, I also weigh the risks that come along with it too. So to me, 20 years provides a cushion just in case. And if we looked at what the numbers that they did, actually, I think even if we did do 15, assuming none of the AVs change or the rates change or anything like that, actually the school would be getting more by having the 20 years. Again, assume, it's huge assumptions which will be invalid in 2 years, but yeah, it is hard. Right now, the bonds they're tough to sell right now. Even though the low interest rate environment, I was telling Al, I talked to a banker I know, works for a pretty good sized bank, and he said they stopped buying municipal bonds because they want to see the effect of COVID because, people are working from home now, so therefore some of the companies won't need as much real estate. So therefore the taxes they're paying, they're waiting to see. It's a wait and see game. So even though the rates are low, it's, and we honestly, it's a public meetings, our GRCs, the bonds we recently did for Anchor Glass and for Polycraft, it's been a really, really tough sell.
And still don't have a buyer.
We don't have buyers.
That's just my opinion.
No, that's.
And the other one, I'm gonna hard one.
No, they may not be wrong.
What's the consequence if they are unable, say it does go to market, goes south? What's the consequence or what's the assurance for you guys that you don't take a loss?
Well, there are a couple of different things that we look at in that, and that is the projected payback and then the reality of whether we think their project can go and if it's going to generate that. The other thing is how we structure distributing the dollar. For instance, the economic development agreement we did on the Anchor Glass project, they committed to $60 million of new renovations and new equipment, new construction, and they didn't get any. They still haven't received any yet. They don't get their money until the first $15 million that they invest. They show us proof that they invested that 15, and then we release a percentage of the funds.
So it's saying that's how you'll structure with this
one of the
project.
things
We don't know. I think that's a big question for some of the Green redevelopment
Yeah.
members is, this is unusual. This is a new thing for us too, to do a housing.
So that's brand new.
It's, I think for some members, and again, I haven't spoken at length of it because we're waiting, they have to jump through some other hoops, is how do we ensure that we're protected, that all sent in 5 years, but we won't pay out until we get it. And bottom line, I think, Al, correct me if I'm wrong, because he's much more adept than I am, but if we cannot get a bond for it, they don't, then go. I mean, because we don't have the money to do it.
Yeah.
Brian?
I have a really simple question, maybe too simple, but so you guys are establishing the TIF for 20 years. Is there anything legally that says that you can evaluate this every 3 years or 5 years and say, hey, after 13 years, hey, we've got our payback, we can end this TIF now? Is there anything that says you can do that?
Yeah, that's very possible. Some of the things you got to do though is find out if you can even pay your bond back early.
Just something.
Yeah, some
like
of
I
the
said,
bonds that you get, there's no early
yeah, but
payback.
something that we can evaluate on
Yeah.
maybe a 3 year, okay, 3 years from now.
Too early. That's too early of a callback,
Yeah, you're
right? Because you have,
No,
there's a minimum
I'm saying
callback.
like on a 3 year increment. So after say 9 years, then you say 12 years, can we end it? I mean, I'm sure some smart attorney out there could figure that one
I
out.
know we can take a bond off early if we so wish.
If it's okay with the people that buy bonds.
Right.
Yeah.
That has to be in the bond purchase agreement. So you got a bond purchase agreement that you got to live up to first, which the developer has to live up to that bond purchase agreement. And we base a lot of our clawbacks on the terms of that. And then we also have our own development agreement that if they don't meet, then they have to take their.
I just wonder if there's a way we could legally do that. That'd be something we could make, look into.
I don't know. I don't think we've ever done it, but that doesn't mean we can't look at it. I don't know.
Because it's so hard to see into the future. Nobody's got a glass
It
ball.
is.
So
And I think there is
something we could,
always,
look into.
there's always a percentage or an amount of risk in economic development. Fortunately, we've done a lot of due diligence in the past, and we haven't been burned yet. And I hope it doesn't happen, but so far it's been good. And we do a lot of due diligence before we agree to any TIF distribution.
And I think too, something just kind of add on what Kevin was talking about with future redevelopments, future mayors, whoever it is. Nobody wants to come to the community then go to Stone School.
Right.
Number one, that is one of them. Housing and education, and quality of life, but nobody wants to do it. So it would be, again, who knows what the future boards will have, but it would be, they would be hurting themselves, not ensuring that they can help the school, whatever the school can do to keep a top tier school as you guys have done. But again, there's no promises.
Anybody else? Bob?
I had a question. I wrote this note down. So the TIF is paid back to the homes, the new project.
Correct.
That's the only impact is on.
As long as we can sell a pure TIF bond, nothing comes from any other source but from the tax revenue that's generated from that property.
On that property.
If it's a manufacturing plant, until recently, we've had to open it up a little bit to use the rest of the TIF as a backup for these bigger bonds. But for this, the ratio is there. If the numbers work the way the ratio is, it's as sellable as any we've sold, as long as they're buying them.
As long as they're buying them.
Because it's about, I think, about a 2.5, 2 or 2.5 to 1, 2 to 1 ratio, I think, what it is right now.
Just a lot going on trying to, and then you threw that out there. I was like, wow, I never thought about that.
And TIF, yeah, well, that's the whole thing. People think that every resident in Greendale has to pay for that, and it's not this. It's not the case. It's the people that are actually buying those homes. The taxes from those homes is what the developer is committing to, paying back the TIF funds with.
But I have a question. In return, the school doesn't. I mean, that's.
I'm sorry?
Which in return, the school's not benefiting.
Well, they are, because what we're doing now is we're increasing the amount of annual TIF revenue, which increases the amount of
The 15%
money that we can give to the school.
I guess my question would be is, I mean, it's a gamble to any development whatsoever. 80-some homes, those are going to sell as quick as you can do it. I mean, I'm a firm believer in that, that if you build it in Greendale, it's going to be sold.
There's certainly a lot of interest.
And, you know, I guess what I'm really concerned about is, I mean, any other development or anything like that, shouldn't, a lot of the development should be laid on that developer as far as their, you know, that's a gamble that they should be taking.
Well, the development, we evaluate that as part of it. What is their contribution to the
What's your
project?
skin in the
Yes.
game?
We always,
I
that's,
mean,
we need numbers, because whatever numbers they give us, and we tell them all, we warn them, you better be conservative, because the numbers you give us are the numbers we hold you to. Those numbers go into an economic development agreement that could cause, for instance, and I'll just use manufacturing because that's what we've got the most experience in. If a manufacturer comes in and promises us 50 jobs and they hire 20 people, they're in trouble. They've got a clawback that they've got to come up with. So we try to build in all of that we can. But to your point and to my point earlier about risk and about what you thought about that, TIF was a tool, and I'm not going to get into a huge long history, but TIF was a tool that was developed because of the state of Indiana, and not just Indiana. There's, I think, 40-some states now that have it. But in Indiana, TIF came about because there was a huge need for manufacturing and business. And this was a tool that helped bring manufacturing to your community. Evidently, the whole state of Indiana has decided that it's not just a Dearborn County need, because they passed a state statute now to create a housing TIF to help developers, encourage developers to take the risk and spend the money to build new homes. So that's what TIF is. It's an economic development tool. And I'll leave it at that. Be happy to answer questions outside of here if you want. For
Anybody else?
Yeah.
Regina, you have anything?
No.
Mr. Johnson, you said you have another one? You sure?
I got a
Bart?
question and then just a comment. So you said they have to have a stake in the game, I understand that, so, and I haven't checked, was this land paid for free and clear?
I don't know if they financed it or not.
So there would be.
I don't get into his personal
Well, that's,
finances.
that.
Well-
on record.
Yeah, no, that's,
So for the economic development agreement, we had the right to do it, and it's public knowledge, Anchor Glass, we have a mortgage on that property.
It would be secondary, it's secondary.
no,
No, on Anchor Glass,
We got a primary.
we have the.
we have a primary on that
It
one.
would be the same on this.
We don't
We
know
don't
that
know,
yet.
because if they already have a
That's a big question.
We haven't
Well,
gotten into the weeds
my
yet.
guess, Mark, is on this project, they're gonna have to go do some financing of their own. So I think then we would be set. And does that hold any value? I don't know. But you at least have a legal claim.
And that would be public record.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we don't make any decisions about any of these unless it's in a public meeting.
Yeah. understood.
It's all public record.
And then my second, you're probably already hearing the safety factor of the stoplight at the bottom of Georgetown and then another.
State zone.
That's a state
I'm
thing. That's
sorry.
That's an IDOT thing. and help us.
Well, but there's people involved in this who pursue that, who are helping that.
I know, but that's not what we're, I mean, I get what you're saying, I
Well,
understand.
it is a concern, because you've got a bus going out of there with 60 kids on, you get smashed.
Bad road.
That's a big, that's a big deal, and I don't want to wait until, Carl, Al and I talked about this, and everybody knows that things like that, something bad has to happen for something like that to happen. And I just hate to see it. So,
I'm not gonna,
Thank you for saying
I'm not gonna
that.
disagree with you, but it can happen pulling off of Allen Avenue too, the buses.
Well,
I mean, you know that, Mark, I mean, anytime you're on Route 1, you're taking a risk sometimes with trucks.
I hate,
Or we
I
would
hate,
be
I hate
opposed
turning
to
down
some
the
kind
towns.
of signal there or something like that.
We won't fight it, that's for sure.
No,
Isn't there gonna be a turning lane?
Yeah, I sent,
Yeah,
Mark a picture of the latest.
Not a chance to print it all.
Yeah, there's gonna be a turning lane. It's gonna be widened on that side of the road.
Okay.
So I think it's an XL and decel lane both.
Just my own personal thoughts.
Bailey, you got anything? Mr. Gailey, you got anything else that you want? Wait a minute, he's speechless, this is a first.
I've asked, I've presented all my questions, they've had them, I've shared them with you guys. You guys,
And we appreciate the
See?
questions, because we've gotten some more education too out of this process, and I do
Hey,
appreciate
guys,
that.
we appreciate, because I know there's been a ton of emails going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Mr. Weldon, as our attorney, is there any questions or anything you might have that we forgot to bring up?
No, I mean, I appreciate listening, and it seems like I've written down all of your concerns, so I don't know how the board wants to proceed, but however you want to proceed, I can meet with Reno Redevelopment, and we can draft some language that would be consistent with what everyone's requested.
I think, personally, I think that'd be great if you guys could work together and do that. I think, from talking to most of the board members, we need to get this information, and there's a lot that we need to soak in. I don't feel comfortable about voting on it tonight. I don't know about any other board member. The majority, we would like to vote on it at our October board meeting. Does that put anything restrictions on you guys?
Not for redevelopment, it doesn't. I have no idea what it does to the development schedule, but I know that they have other things that they're going through now. They're still trying to develop Greendale doesn't have a PUD ordinance that has to be in place before, and I know that planning is going through that tonight, but, I'm sorry, planned unit development. PUD, and it's basically just trying to condense to be able to put more houses in a smaller area.
Size.
Yeah. smaller
So
streets.
you may want to make sure your buses do the cul-de-sac.
They've shared the cul-de-sacs.
Perfect, 'cause I know Greendale and fire, the police and fire had some concerns about turning and all that.
That's the only thing we've got to discuss.
And I think they've
got
already
it
worked that
designed
out.
on
They have to work
66.
that out in the planning commission, and that's part of what they're doing. That's all, that would all go into the PUD ordinance.
We have a meeting on the 12th. You know, we'll plan on putting that on the agenda, if everybody's comfortable with that, and voting on it then. Dale, if you guys don't mind, if him and Anthony talk and work up some kind of agreement that we talked about, even if it's a rough draft or something that we can have for that meeting. You know, something that you guys, we'd sign and you guys would sign, and it would be an agreement between us both. I don't know, like you said, put in a MOD or a MUD or MOU or, yeah. MOU, HCK, whatever.
I'm sorry, when are we, the third Tuesday?
The third Tuesday, it'll be after that.
We'll be after that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's really nothing, again, we've seen a sample EDA, and that's where we got the 1.7 million, but our board also knows nothing can happen till you guys approve it, till zoning and planning approve it, and then it comes to us, and that's why I've told so many people have
Go
asked.
to council.
Yeah, go to council, and, yeah, but I told so many people, they've asked, you know, what was the comments like, we don't want to see it because it'd be putting the cart before the horse. They have to do other things first, and you guys are one of those things.
You know, we don't want to hold things up, but at the same time, we want, you know, we need to get some answers answered, and we did, some questions answered, and we appreciate it. I mean, the emails have been very helpful, I believe, from you and Carl, and going back and forth. And Mark's been enlightening us on a few things that's going on, so.
Yeah, and Mark has seen, you know, the forecast, I'm not gonna say budget, that shows the 15% in there and that too. And I think that forecast, I think if we get Anchor Glass up and going, Queen City, there could be some potential increases in that too, so it could be a good thing.
Make it 50, we'll make a deal. We'll sign.
If you want to let them go present, then I'll have it as the voting item on October 12th.
We'll do that.
Thank you.
And I appreciate your time.
Guys, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. All right, no further questions. We'll adjourn the meeting.
It's 5 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. Executive, we're gonna
It's in the library. Executive.
executive in the library.